I never thought a broken down car would destroy my billion-dollar empire, but it did. When successful businesswoman Evelyn Carter's luxury vehicle died on a forgotten country road, she expected a quick fix and nothing more. Instead, she met a small-town mechanic who would dismantle everything she'd spent 30 years building: her corporate kingdom, her carefully crafted reputation, her entire identity. This is the story of how one evening changed everything. If you want to see how far wealth can fall and love can rise, stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The boardroom smelled like expensive cologne and hidden resentment. Evelyn Carter stood at the head of the marble conference table, watching 12 men in identical navy suits pretend to listen while mentally calculating how to undermine her next quarterly report. She'd seen this dance before. Hell, she'd choreographed it herself during her rapid climb from junior analyst to CEO before her 28th birthday. "The Singapore acquisition closes Friday," she said, her voice cutting through the air-conditioned silence. "Hamilton, I need those compliance reports on my desk by Wednesday. No extensions." Robert Hamilton, 56, graying temples, wedding ring he never wore during business trips, shifted in his leather chair. "That's an aggressive timeline, Ms. Carter." "Then I suggest you start working instead of questioning." The tension rippled around the table. Evelyn caught the quick glance exchanged between Hamilton and Marcus Webb, her VP of Operations. She filed it away in the mental folder labeled "Problems to Handle Later." The folder was getting thick. "Anything else?" She didn't wait for responses. "Good. We're done." Chairs scraped against imported Italian tile. The exodus was swift, silent, efficient. Corporate sharks swimming back to their individual tanks. Evelyn gathered her leather portfolio, her fingers brushing against the embossed logo of Carter Holdings. $15 billion in assets, 700 employees across 4 continents, magazine covers, conference keynotes, a corner office on the 42nd floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city that never stopped moving. Everything she'd ever wanted, everything that was slowly suffocating her. Her assistant Rebecca appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand, face arranged in professional concern. "Your 4 o'clock canceled. Should I reschedule?" "No." Evelyn checked her watch, a vintage Patek Philippe her father had given her the day she made her first million. "I'm leaving early." Rebecca's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose a fraction. Evelyn Carter didn't leave early. Evelyn Carter arrived at 6:30 and departed at 9, sometimes 10. Evelyn Carter was the company. "You have the Riverside Foundation Gala tonight at 7, Rebecca reminded her. "Cancel it." "Miss Carter, you're the keynote." "I said cancel it." Evelyn's voice came out sharper than intended. She softened it marginally. "Send my apologies and a donation. 50,000. Money fixed everything in her world. Write a check. Solve a problem. It was efficient, clean, emotionless. Rebecca nodded and disappeared, already typing the necessary emails. Evelyn walked to her office window. 42 floors below, thousands of people moved through their Friday evening like blood cells through veins, going home to families, to pets, to Netflix and leftover pizza. Simple lives. Uncomplicated lives. Lives she'd never wanted until recently. Her phone buzzed. A text from Margot Chen, her college roommate turned venture capitalist turned professional meddler. "Still on for tonight? Derek is perfect for you. Harvard. MBA. Runs a tech startup. Just closed Series B funding. You'll love him." Evelyn stared at the message. Another blind date. Another carefully vetted candidate from Margot's endless supply of perfect matches. They were always perfect on paper. Stanford degrees, 7-figure incomes, impressive investment portfolios. They were also uniformly boring. But Margot meant well, and Evelyn had promised months ago to try, to stop using work as an excuse, to actually attempt something resembling a personal life. She typed back. "Address?" Margot's response came immediately, followed by 3 heart emojis and a champagne glass. The restaurant was in Riverside Valley, some farm-to-table place getting buzz for its organic menu and rustic ambiance. An hour outside the city. Of course it was. Evelyn pocketed her phone and grabbed her jacket, charcoal gray, designer, tailored to perfection. She looked at herself in the reflection of her office window. 30 years old, 5'7" in the 4-inch heels she wore like armor, hair pulled back in a severe bun. Makeup minimal but strategic. The uniform of success. She looked powerful. She looked untouchable. She looked exhausted. The thought arrived unbidden, and she pushed it away with practiced efficiency. This was the life she'd chosen. The life she'd built with calculated precision and relentless ambition. You didn't get to complain about the weight of the crown when you'd killed to wear it. Evelyn took the private elevator to the underground garage. Her car, a silver Aston Martin Vantage, sat in its reserved spot like a sleeping predator. She'd bought it after closing the Melbourne deal, a reward for herself that the financial press had criticized as ostentatious. She'd driven it exactly 17 times in 8 months. The engine purred to life. Evelyn programmed the restaurant address into the GPS and pulled out of the garage into Friday evening traffic. The city gradually fell away behind her. Skyscrapers gave way to suburbs, then to stretches of countryside dotted with farmland and forests. The GPS guided her onto Highway 47, a 2-lane road that cut through the kind of landscape you saw in car commercials. Rolling hills, scattered trees, golden hour sunlight slanting through the haze. It was beautiful in a way that made her vaguely uncomfortable. Too quiet. Too open. Too far from the controlled chaos, she understood. Her phone rang through the car's speakers. Margot again. "Please tell me you're not bailing," Margot said without preamble. "I'm 20 minutes away." "Excellent. Derek's already there. I showed him your photo. He's very excited." "You showed him my photo?" "Relax. It was the Fortune magazine cover, not your driver's license. You looked gorgeous." Evelyn checked the rearview mirror, half expecting to see that version of herself staring back, the one who smiled for cameras and gave interviews about breaking glass ceilings. That woman knew exactly what to say, how to stand, which angles made her look confident instead of cold. That woman was exhausting to be. "Just be yourself," Margot continued. "Be charming. Be warm. Show him the Evelyn I know, not the corporate ice queen." "I'm not an ice queen. You fired 3 executives last month. They were embezzling. You made one of them cry." "He embezzled $4 million, Margot." Margot sighed. "Just try to smile tonight, okay? Maybe laugh at his jokes, even if they're not funny. Men like that sounds horrible." "It's called dating, sweetie. Normal people do it." "I'm not normal people." "That's the problem." The call ended. Evelyn gripped the steering wheel tighter, watching the GPS countdown. 12 minutes. 11. 10. The sun was sinking toward the horizon, painting everything in shades of amber and rust. Pretty, picturesque. The kind of scene people paid money to photograph for their Instagram feeds. The kind of place that made Evelyn feel like an alien. 9 minutes. The car made a sound, not a normal sound, a grinding mechanical protest that vibrated through the chassis and made her stomach drop. Evelyn eased off the accelerator. The sound grew louder, more insistent. "No," she said aloud. "Don't you dare." The Aston Martin didn't care about her commands. Rich people didn't impress it. The grinding became a shriek, and then suddenly the entire vehicle lurched, lost power, and began coasting. Evelyn guided it to the shoulder, her heart hammering. The engine died completely. She sat in sudden, profound silence, broken only by the distant sound of wind through grass. "You have got to be kidding me." She turned the key. Nothing. Tried again. The dashboard lights flickered weakly and went dark. Evelyn pulled out her phone. No service. Because of course there wasn't. She was in the middle of agricultural nowhere, surrounded by fields and trees and absolutely zero cell towers. She got out of the car. The evening air hit her like a wall, cooler than the city, carrying smells of earth and growing things. Her heels sank slightly into the gravel shoulder. The road stretched empty in both directions. No other cars, no houses, no signs of human civilization except the asphalt beneath her feet. This couldn't be happening. Not tonight. Not when she was already 45 minutes from the city with a blind date waiting and a friend who would never let her hear the end of canceling. Evelyn walked around the car, as if looking at it from different angles would reveal the problem. She knew nothing about engines. She knew quarterly reports and hostile takeovers and how to read a balance sheet in 3 languages, but the mechanical guts of a vehicle might as well have been ancient hieroglyphics. She tried the key again. Dead. "Perfect," she muttered. "Absolutely perfect." The sun was sinking faster now. Another 20 minutes and it would be dark. Evelyn looked down the road, then back the way she'd come. She thought she'd seen a sign a few miles back, something about a town or services. Walking in 4-inch heels on a gravel shoulder seemed like a terrible idea. Staying here alone as night fell seemed worse. Evelyn grabbed her purse, locked the car out of habit, and started walking. The heels lasted exactly 10 minutes before she admitted defeat and carried them. The pavement was rough against her stockinged feet, but at least she could move faster. The sun dropped lower. The temperature followed. Evelyn's jacket wasn't designed for actual cold. It was designed to look good in climate-controlled buildings. She'd walked maybe 2 miles when she saw the light. Just a glow at first, barely visible around a curve in the road. But as she got closer, it resolved into an actual building, a squat, metal-sided structure with a hand-painted sign that read Riverside Garage in fading letters. A single overhead light illuminated a small parking area scattered with vehicles in various states of disrepair. The garage door was open, spilling yellow light across oil-stained concrete. From inside came the sound of music, classic rock, playing on a radio that had seen better decades. Evelyn approached slowly, her bare feet silent on the cracked pavement. She could see someone moving inside, bent over the open hood of an ancient pickup truck. "Hello?" Her voice came out smaller than intended. The figure straightened and turned. He was tall, maybe 6'1", with dark hair that needed cutting and a flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up over forearms marked with old scars and newer grease stains. His face was all angles, strong jaw, straight nose, eyes that were somewhere between blue and gray. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not surprise exactly, more like mild confusion about why a barefoot woman in a business suit was materializing out of the twilight. "You lost?" His voice was deeper than she expected, rougher. "My car broke down." Evelyn gestured vaguely back toward the road. "About 2 miles that way. I don't have cell service." He wiped his hands on a rag that didn't make them any cleaner. "What kind of car?" "Aston Martin, Vantage." Something flickered in his expression, not quite judgment, but close. "That's an expensive walk." "It wasn't by choice." He studied her for a moment longer, then nodded toward the interior of the garage. "Come on, you can use the phone." Evelyn followed him inside. The garage smelled like motor oil and old coffee. Tools hung on pegboards in surprisingly organized rows. A calendar from 2 years ago was tacked to one wall, still showing February. A small space heater glowed in the corner near a desk buried under invoices and parts catalogs. The man picked up an ancient landline phone and handed it to her. Their fingers brushed briefly, his rough with calluses, hers smooth with expensive moisturizer. "Thanks." Evelyn dialed Margot's number from memory. It rang and went to voicemail. Of course it did. She tried her assistant. Voicemail. She tried the one executive at her company she semi-trusted. Voicemail. "Having trouble?" The mechanic had moved back to the truck but was watching her peripherally. "Everyone I know screens their calls." Evelyn set down the phone harder than necessary. "You got anyone who'd actually come get you?" The question landed like a punch. Evelyn had hundreds of contacts, thousands. She'd been photographed with senators and movie stars. She'd had dinner with tech billionaires and hotel heiresses. But did she have anyone who'd drive an hour into the countryside to pick her up from a garage? "I can call a car service," she said. "Might take a while to get here. This isn't exactly downtown." He straightened, studying her with those unreadable gray-blue eyes. "Where were you headed?" "Riverside Valley, the Harvest Table restaurant." "That's another 30 minutes past here." He glanced at a clock on the wall, an ancient thing with a Coca-Cola logo. "You're not making dinner." "I'm aware." "Important date?" "Blind date." "First date. Now no date." Evelyn surprised herself by continuing. "My friend set it up. Harvard MBA, tech startup, perfect on paper." "Sounds thrilling." She almost smiled. It sounded like work. The mechanic grabbed a different rag and wiped down a wrench with careful precision. "I could tow your car back here, take a look at it, but I'm not going to be able to diagnose anything tonight. I've got—" He paused, seemed to reconsider something. "I've got other commitments." "Right, of course." Evelyn looked around the garage at the unfamiliar territory of manual labor and honest work. "What do I owe you for using the phone?" He shook his head. "It's a phone. Not charging you for basic human decency. Basic human decency. The phrase felt almost quaint. In Evelyn's world, everything had a price. Favors were currency. Kindness was strategy. "I'm Evelyn," she heard herself say. "Evelyn Carter." Liam Brooks. He didn't offer his hand, they were still covered in grease, but he nodded. "Wish the circumstances were better. That makes two of us." The radio shifted songs. Something old, bluesy. The space heater hummed. Outside, full darkness had arrived. "Look," Liam said after a moment, "I've got to pick up my daughter from the neighbors in 20 minutes. After that, I can drive you back to the city if you want. I was going to tow your car here anyway. Might as well make the trip count." "You don't have to do that. Wasn't asking if I had to. I'm offering." Evelyn studied him. No angle, no ulterior motive. Just a man offering help to a stranger because it was the decent thing to do. When was the last time someone had done something for her without wanting something in return? "Okay," she said quietly. "Thank you." Liam nodded and went back to work on the truck. Evelyn perched carefully on a stool near the desk, feeling completely out of place in her designer suit and bare feet. She watched him work, efficient movements, practiced hands, the kind of competence that came from doing something 1,000 times. "How long have you had the garage?" she asked. "About 8 years, bought it from the previous owner when he retired." Liam adjusted something under the hood. "It's not much, but it's mine." "That counts for a lot." He glanced at her. "You sound like you know something about that." "I built my own company. Different industry, but the principle's the same." "What industry?" "Investment management, acquisitions, corporate restructuring." The words tasted like rehearsed biography. Boring stuff, but profitable. Very. "And that's why you drive an Aston Martin to a blind date in the middle of nowhere?" "The Aston Martin was an impulse purchase I regret. The blind date was a favor to a friend I also regret." Evelyn paused. "This is more honest than I usually am with strangers." "Sometimes strangers are easier. We don't have expectations yet." Liam closed the truck's hood with a solid thunk. "All right, let me wash up and we'll get your car." He disappeared through a door marked office and returned a few minutes later with cleaner hands and a different jacket. He grabbed a set of keys from a hook. "You coming?" Evelyn stood, still holding her heels. Liam noticed and almost smiled. "There's boots by the door if you want. Probably too big, but better than nothing." She found them. Heavy work boots that were indeed too big, but her feet were already sore and cold. She stuffed tissue from her purse into the toes and laced them up. Fashion disaster, practical necessity. Liam's tow truck was older than she was, with rust spots and a radio that only worked on AM stations. The seat was cracked vinyl patched with duct tape. It smelled like old coffee and diesel. It was the least luxurious vehicle Evelyn had been in since college. She kind of loved it. The drive back to her car took 5 minutes. The Aston Martin sat on the shoulder exactly where she'd left it, looking ridiculously expensive and completely helpless. Liam maneuvered the tow truck with practiced ease, hooking up her car with efficient movements. Evelyn stood to the side, watching someone else handle a problem she couldn't fix herself. It felt strange, vulnerable, not entirely terrible. "This is going to sound stupid," she said as Liam secured the final chain, "but I don't think I've ever watched someone work like this before." "Like what?" "With their hands. Fixing something physical. Most of my problems get solved with phone calls and contracts. Those are real problems too. They don't feel as real as this, as something you can touch and repair and make work again." She paused. "Does that make sense?" Liam straightened, looking at her in the glow of the tow truck's lights. "Yeah, it does." Something passed between them in that moment, recognition, maybe, or just the strange intimacy of honest conversation between two people who had no reason to perform for each other. "Come on," Liam said. "Let's get you out of here before it gets any later." They drove back to the garage in comfortable silence. The AM radio played country music and farm reports. The stars were coming out above the dark fields, more stars than Evelyn had seen in years of city living. At the garage, Liam parked the tow truck and pulled her Aston Martin into one of the bays. He walked around it slowly, professional assessment in every glance. "I'll look at it tomorrow," he said. "Give you a call when I know what we're dealing with." "What do you think it is?" "Could be a lot of things. Transmission, maybe. Won't know until I get under it." He pulled out his phone. a smartphone with a cracked screen protector. Need your number. Evelyn recited it. He typed it in. All right, now let me grab Chloe and we'll get you home. Chloe? My daughter. Something softened in his expression when he said it. She's 8. Been at the neighbors since I got off school pickup. Liam locked the garage and they climbed into a different vehicle. A pickup truck that was newer than the tow truck, but not by much. The back seat had a booster seat and scattered toys. They drove 3 minutes to a small house with a porch light burning. Before Liam could get out, the front door opened and a little girl came running out. She was all wild curls and bright energy, wearing jeans and a pink sweatshirt with a unicorn on it. She scrambled into the back seat, talking before she'd even buckled in. Dad, you're late. Mrs. Patterson let me help make cookies and I saved you 3, but I ate 1, so really it's 2. And also, can we watch a movie tonight? Please? Maybe. Depends on how late we get back. Liam glanced at the rearview mirror, his voice gentler than Evelyn had heard it yet. Chloe, this is Miss Carter. Her car broke down and we're giving her a ride to the city. Chloe noticed Evelyn for the first time. Her eyes went wide. Whoa, you're really pretty, like princess pretty. Are you a princess? Evelyn turned in her seat. No, just a regular person whose car stopped working. But you're wearing fancy clothes, and you smell nice, like flowers. That's my perfume. It's really nice. I like flowers. Dad got me flower seeds, and we're going to plant a garden when it's spring. Do you like gardens? I don't really have one. That's sad. Everyone should have flowers. They make you happy. There was something utterly disarming about this child's certainty. Evelyn found herself smiling, a real smile, not the corporate one she deployed at meetings. You're probably right, she said. The drive to the city was nothing like the silent, awkward journey Evelyn had imagined. Chloe filled every moment with commentary about school, about her best friend Madison, about the book her teacher was reading to the class, about how she wanted a dog, but Dad said maybe when they had a bigger yard. Liam drove and listened, occasionally interjecting with questions or gentle corrections. Evelyn watched the dynamic between them. Easy affection, comfortable routine, the kind of relationship that came from years of just being together. When had she last felt that kind of ease with another person? Miss Carter, do you have any kids? Chloe asked suddenly. No? Do you have a husband? Chloe, Liam said quietly, that's personal. It's okay. Evelyn turned again to look at the little girl. No husband, no kids, just work. That sounds lonely. Out of the mouths of children, direct, honest, devastating. Sometimes it is, Evelyn admitted. You should get a dog. Dogs are good when you're lonely, that's what Dad says. I travel a lot for work. Wouldn't be fair to the dog. Chloe considered this seriously. That's responsible. Dad says you can't have a pet unless you can take care of it properly. But maybe you could get a plant? Plants don't need as much attention. I kill plants. How? I forget to water them. You could set a reminder on your phone. Evelyn laughed, genuinely laughed. You're very practical. Dad says I get that from him. In the driver's seat, Liam's mouth quirked up at the corner. Not quite a smile, but close. They crossed back into the city limits. Streetlights replaced starlight. Traffic thickened. The buildings grew taller. Evelyn directed Liam to her building, a glass and steel tower in the financial district. He pulled up to the curb and stared upward. You live here? 42nd floor. How many floors are there? 43. Chloe had fallen asleep in the back seat, her head pillowed on a stuffed rabbit. Evelyn unbuckled and grabbed her purse. Thank you, she said, for everything. For the phone, for the tow, for the ride. You didn't have to do any of it. Seemed like the right thing to do. Most people don't do the right thing just because it's right. Liam looked at her fully then, and Evelyn felt the weight of that gaze. Maybe you've been around the wrong people. The comment sat between them, true and uncomfortable. I'll call you tomorrow about the car, he added. Probably afternoon. Okay. Evelyn got out, started toward the building, turned back. Liam? He'd been about to pull away. He stopped, window down. Tell Chloe I'm going to get a plant. His almost smile became a real one. I will. Evelyn watched the truck disappear into traffic. Then she walked into her building, the one she owned 3 floors of, the one with marble lobbies and doormen who knew her by name, but not at all. She rode the elevator to the 42nd floor, unlocked her penthouse, stood in the entryway of 3,000 square feet of designer furniture and custom artwork, and carefully curated perfection. Empty. So profoundly empty. Her phone buzzed. "Margot, finally. Where are you? Derek waited an hour." Evelyn stared at the message. She thought about the date she'd missed. The Harvard MBA with the tech startup. Perfect on paper. She thought about a little girl talking about flower gardens and dogs and the importance of taking care of things properly. She thought about a mechanic with rough hands and honest eyes who'd helped a stranger because it was the decent thing to do. "Car broke down," she typed back. "Got a ride back to the city. Long story. Are you okay?" "Yeah," Evelyn wrote. "I think I am." She set the phone down and walked to the window. The city spread out below her, glittering and vast and full of millions of people living millions of lives she would never touch. Somewhere out there, in a small house near a garage, a single father was probably tucking his daughter into bed, reading her a story, making sure she felt safe and loved. Simple things, real things. Evelyn pressed her forehead against the cool glass. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she wondered if she'd been building the wrong life. Liam called at 2:30 the next afternoon. Evelyn was in a budget meeting when her phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen, unknown number, and almost declined it. Then she remembered. The garage. The mechanic. Her stranded car. "Excuse me a moment," she said to the 8 executives gathered around the table. Their faces showed varying degrees of irritation as she stepped into the hallway. "This is Evelyn. It's Liam Brooks. From the garage." His voice sounded different over the phone, less rough somehow. "Got some news about your car." "How bad?" "Transmission shot. Complete failure. You'll need a full replacement." Evelyn leaned against the hallway wall. "How much?" "Parts and labor? Probably 12, 13,000. Maybe more depending on what else I find when I dig deeper." She almost laughed. $13,000 was nothing. She'd spent more than that on a handbag she'd carried exactly twice. But the way Liam said it, careful, like he expected her to be upset, reminded her that for most people, that was real money. "Okay," she said. "Do it." A pause. "You don't want to think about it? Maybe get a second opinion?" "Do I need a second opinion?" "No, I'm good at what I do, but 13 grand is 13 grand. "Then I trust you. How long will it take?" "Week? Maybe 10 days. Have to order the parts, and I'm backed up with other jobs." "That's fine." Another pause. Longer this time. "All right then. I'll call you when it's done." "Wait." Evelyn caught herself. Thank you for looking at it so quickly." "Just doing my job, Ms. Carter." "Evelyn, please." "Evelyn," he repeated, and something about the way he said her name made her forget she was standing in a corporate hallway wearing a $2,000 suit. The call ended. Evelyn stood there for a moment, phone still pressed to her ear, before Rebecca appeared around the corner. "Miss Carter, they're waiting." Right, the budget meeting, the quarterly projections. The 12 people whose time she was wasting by standing in a hallway thinking about a mechanic's voice. She went back inside. The meeting droned on. Numbers scrolled across presentation slides. People argued about market share and operational efficiency. Evelyn contributed when necessary, approved what needed approving, shut down the nonsense that always crept into these discussions. But part of her brain, a part that was growing louder lately, kept circling back to the same question. What was the point of any of this? The meeting finally ended at 4:15. Evelyn returned to her office and found Margot waiting in one of the leather chairs, scrolling through her phone with the practiced disinterest of someone who owned 3 companies and acted like she owned the world. "Your assistant said you were in budget." Margot looked up. "Since when do you take personal calls during budget meetings?" "It was about my car." "Still broken?" "Needs a new transmission." Margot wrinkled her nose. "Ugh, that's going to be expensive." "Apparently." "Well, at least you can afford it." Margot set down her phone. "Unlike poor Derek, who sat alone at the harvest table for an hour yesterday looking like an abandoned puppy, I had to buy him brunch today to apologize." Guilt pricked at Evelyn. "I'm sorry." I really didn't plan for the car to die. I know, but seriously, Ev, you could have at least texted him. I didn't have service. All night? Evelyn sank into her desk chair. A mechanic gave me a ride back to the city. It was late. I forgot. Margot's eyes sharpened with interest. A mechanic gave you a ride? Was he hot? That's not relevant. Oh my God, he was hot. Margot leaned forward. Tell me everything. There's nothing to tell. My car broke down. He towed it. He drove me home. End of story. Was he single? He has a daughter. That's not an answer to my question. Evelyn picked up a pen, then set it down. I don't know if he's single. We didn't discuss his relationship status. But you thought about it. No. You're lying. I can tell when you're lying. You do this thing with your mouth. What thing? The thing you're doing right now. Margot grinned. You like him. I met him for 3 hours. I don't know him well enough to like him. But you're thinking about him. Evelyn wanted to deny it, should have denied it. But Margot had known her since they were 19 and stupid and convinced they could change the world. There was no point in lying to someone who'd seen you drunk cry over economics finals. He was different, Evelyn admitted quietly. Different how? Kind, real. He helped me because it was the right thing to do, not because he wanted something from me. Margot's expression softened. When's the last time someone did that? Exactly. So call him. And say what? Thanks for towing my car. Want to get coffee? Yes. Literally say that. Evelyn shook her head. He lives an hour outside the city. He has a kid. He runs a garage. We have nothing in common. You both breathe oxygen. That's a start. Margot, I'm serious. When's the last time you were actually interested in someone, not just going through the motions because I set you up, but genuinely curious about another human being? The question hit harder than intended. Evelyn thought about the last year of dating, the lawyers and executives and entrepreneurs, the men with impressive resumes and expensive watches who talked about themselves for 2 hours straight, the ones who saw her as a trophy or a business opportunity or a challenge to conquer. She thought about Chloe's gap-toothed smile, Liam's rough hands, the easy quiet of the drive back to the city. I don't know, she said finally. That's what I thought. Margot stood, smoothing her skirt. Look, I'm not saying marry the guy. I'm saying maybe stop hiding in this office and actually live a little. The company will survive if you're not here 80 hours a week. 60. That's not the defense you think it is. After Margot left, Evelyn turned her chair to face the windows. The city sprawled below, all glass and concrete and relentless forward motion. Somewhere out there, beyond the buildings and traffic and noise, was a small garage where a man was probably elbow deep in her transmission. She pulled up his number in her phone, stared at it, put the phone down, picked it up again, picked it up. This was ridiculous. She was a 30-year-old CEO who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals. She could make a simple phone call. She couldn't make a simple phone call. Evelyn set the phone down and forced herself to work. Emails, contract reviews, a conference call with the Singapore office. By the time she looked up again, it was past 7 and her assistant had gone home. The office felt too quiet, too big, too empty. She thought about Chloe's question from the night before. Do you have a husband? Do you have kids? Just work? That sounds lonely. Yeah, kid, it really does. Evelyn grabbed her coat and left. The days that followed fell into their usual pattern. Meetings, calls, decisions that affected hundreds of people and millions of dollars. Evelyn moved through it all with practiced efficiency, her mind operating on 2 tracks, the professional one that handled business and the other one that kept circling back to a conversation in a garage. On Wednesday, she bought a plant, a small succulent from the shop in the lobby of her building. The woman who sold it to her promised it was nearly impossible to kill. Evelyn set it on her kitchen counter and stared at it like it might start demanding things. On Thursday, Liam called with an update. Found some additional wear on the clutch assembly, he said. Nothing critical yet, but it'll need replacing in the next 6 months. Thought you should know. Should I do it now while you're already in there? Would save you time and labor costs down the road. Then do it. It'll add another $800 to the bill. That's fine. A pause. You make decisions fast. Occupational hazard. In my job, hesitation costs money. What job is that exactly? Evelyn leaned back in her office chair. I run an investment firm. We acquire companies, restructure them, sell them for profit. So you buy things and make them better? That's the charitable interpretation. What's the uncharitable one? That I'm a corporate raider who destroys jobs and guts companies for profit. Which one's true? The question was so direct it caught her off guard. Most people either assume the best or the worst. Nobody actually asked. Probably somewhere in the middle, Evelyn said. I like to think we improve operational efficiency and increase shareholder value. Critics say we're vultures. They're not entirely wrong. At least you're honest about it. Is that a compliment? Just an observation. In the background, she heard the clang of tools, a radio playing something country, the ambient noise of actual work being done. How's Chloe? The question came out before she could stop it. Another pause. She's good. Keeps asking when the princess lady is coming back to visit. I'm not a princess. Try telling her that. She's convinced you're secretly royalty. Evelyn smiled despite herself. Sorry about that. Don't be. Kid's got a good imagination. Helps her deal with... He trailed off. With what? Just stuff. Life stuff. His tone shifted slightly, closing off that avenue. Anyway, your car should be ready middle of next week. I'll call you. Okay, thanks, Liam. Yeah. The call ended. Evelyn sat holding her phone, feeling the absence of his voice like a physical thing. This was getting stupid. She was acting like a teenager with a crush, which was absurd because she was 30 years old and he was just a mechanic fixing her car and she needed to get a grip. She made herself focus on work. A merger was hitting complications. The legal team needed direction. There were fires to put out and decisions to make and absolutely no time to think about a man she barely knew. Except she kept thinking about him anyway. Friday afternoon, Rebecca knocked on her office door. Miss Carter? There's someone here to see you. No appointment. Evelyn looked up from her laptop. Who? She says her name is Chloe. She's maybe 8? And there's a man with her who says he's her father. Evelyn's heart did something complicated. Send them in. Liam appeared in the doorway a moment later, looking deeply uncomfortable in his work jacket and jeans, one hand on Chloe's shoulder. The little girl was wearing a school uniform, navy jumper, white shirt, and carrying a small pot with something green sprouting from the dirt. Sorry to just show up, Liam said. We were in the city and Chloe insisted. We brought you a plant, Chloe announced, holding up the pot. A real one from our garden. Evelyn stood completely thrown. You didn't have to do that. You said you were getting a plant. Chloe walked right up to her desk and set the pot down with careful ceremony. This is basil. It's easy. You just water it when the dirt feels dry and make sure it gets sun. Dad says you can use it for cooking, too. I don't really cook. Then you can just smell it. It smells nice. Liam shifted his weight, still standing near the door like he might bolt at any moment. I told her this was a bad idea, that you were probably busy. It's fine. Evelyn looked at the little plant, then at Chloe's hopeful face. This is really thoughtful. Thank you. You're welcome. Now you have 2 plants. That's basically a garden. Basically, Evelyn agreed. Chloe spun in a slow circle, taking in the office. Wow, this is really high up. Can you see everything from here? Most of the city. Do you ever get scared that you might fall? The windows don't open. That's smart. Safety first. That's what Dad says. Chloe wandered to the window, pressing her nose against the glass. Oh, wow. I can see the river and all the tiny cars. They look like toys. Liam caught Evelyn's eye and mouthed, sorry. She shook her head slightly. It's okay. We should go, Liam said. Let you get back to work. Do we have to? Chloe turned from the window. This is so cool. Do you work here every day? Most days. Even weekends? Sometimes. That's a lot of work. Don't you get tired? Out of the mouths of children, again. Sometimes, Evelyn admitted. You should take breaks. Breaks are important. That's what my teacher says. Liam put his hand on his daughter's shoulder. Come on, kiddo. We've got to meet Mrs. Patterson in 20 minutes. But I wanted to see if Ms. Carter had any toys in her office. This is a work office. No toys. That's sad. Every office should have at least one toy. Evelyn surprised herself by laughing. You might be right about that. She walked them to the elevator. Chloe chattered the entire way, pointing out artwork and asking questions about what different departments did. Liam followed quietly, his discomfort with the corporate environment obvious in the way he kept his hands in his pockets and his shoulders slightly hunched. At the elevator, Chloe threw her arms around Evelyn's waist in an unexpected hug. "Bye, Ms. Carter. Take good care of your plants." "I will. I promise." The elevator doors opened. Chloe bounced inside, but Liam lingered for a moment. "Sorry again," he said quietly. "She's been talking about you all week. Wanted to do something nice." "It was nice. Really?" Their eyes met, held. "Your car should be ready Tuesday," Liam said. "Okay. I can deliver it if you want, save you the drive." "You don't have to." "I know, but I'm offering." The same thing he'd said that first night. Not because he had to, because he wanted to. "Okay," Evelyn said again, softer this time. "Thank you." Liam nodded and stepped into the elevator. Chloe waved enthusiastically as the doors closed. Evelyn stood in the empty hallway for a long moment before returning to her office. The basil plant sat on her desk, green and alive and utterly out of place among the contracts and quarterly reports. She touched one of the leaves gently. It smelled like summer, like things that grew instead of things that got bought and sold. Rebecca appeared in the doorway. "Was that the mechanic?" "And his daughter." "They brought you a plant." "Apparently I mentioned I was getting one." Rebecca's expression was carefully neutral. "That was thoughtful." "It was. He seems nice." "Rebecca, I'm just saying, he seems nice, and you smiled more in those 10 minutes than I've seen in the 6 months I've worked for you." Evelyn wanted to argue. Couldn't. "Get back to work," she said instead. Rebecca left, smiling. Evelyn pulled up the contract she'd been reviewing before the interruption, read the same paragraph 3 times without absorbing a single word, finally gave up and walked to the window. The city spread out below her in all directions. Millions of people, millions of lives. Somewhere down there, Liam and Chloe were probably getting back in their truck, going home to their small house with the garden, living a life she couldn't imagine, a life that looked increasingly appealing. Her phone buzzed, a text from a number she didn't recognize. "Chloe wants me to make sure you know Basil needs water once a week. Not more. She's very concerned about overwatering." "Liam." Evelyn smiled and typed back, "Tell her I'll be careful." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "She says if you need help, you can call any time. She's available for plant consultations." "Good to know." "What about you?" The dots took longer this time. "What about me? Are you available for consultations?" The dots appeared and disappeared several times. Evelyn's heart rate picked up in a way that felt ridiculous and unstoppable. "Depends on the subject." She stared at her phone. This was crazy. She was texting a mechanic from a small town about plant care and maybe, possibly, flirting. She had a company to run, responsibilities, a reputation. She typed, "Coffee?" The dots seemed to take forever. "When? Tuesday? When you deliver the car?" "Okay. Just okay." One word. But Evelyn felt it in her chest like something opening. "There's a place near my building. Marcel's. Around 2? I'll find it." Evelyn set her phone down, looked at the basil plant, looked at the city. What was she doing? She had no idea, but for the first time in years, she wanted to find out. The weekend passed in its usual blur of work and solitude. Evelyn caught up on emails, reviewed contracts, took calls from Singapore and London. On Sunday, she watered both plants and felt absurdly proud when they didn't immediately die. Monday morning, she found herself paying more attention to her clothes, not the usual armor of designer suits and severe tailoring, but something softer, a cashmere sweater, better earrings. Margot noticed immediately when they met for lunch. "You look different." "I look the same." "No, you look less terrifying. What happened?" Evelyn poked at her salad. "I'm having coffee with the mechanic tomorrow." Margot's fork clattered against her plate. "I'm sorry, what?" "You heard me. You're having coffee with the mechanic, the hot single dad mechanic." "I didn't say he was hot." "You didn't have to. I can see it on your face." Margot leaned forward. "Oh my God, Ev, you're nervous." "I'm not nervous." "You're picking at your food." You only pick at your food when you're nervous. Evelyn set down her fork. What if this is stupid? We have nothing in common. He lives an hour away. He has a kid. I work 80-hour weeks. 60. Not helping. Look, Margot said, maybe it won't work out. Maybe it's just coffee and you never see him again. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's something real. When's the last time you even wanted to find out? Evelyn didn't have an answer. Tuesday morning arrived with the kind of nervous energy she usually reserved for major negotiations. Evelyn changed her outfit 3 times before settling on dark jeans, a silk blouse, and a blazer that said professional but approachable, whatever that meant. At 1:45, Rebecca buzzed her. Mr. Brooks is here. He said he'd wait in the lobby. Evelyn's stomach flipped. Tell him I'll be right down. She grabbed her purse, checked her reflection, took a breath. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. She found Liam standing near the windows, looking out at the street. He'd cleaned up, dark jeans, a button-down shirt that actually fit properly, work boots that had seen better days but were clearly his nicest pair. He turned when he heard her approach. Something flickered in his expression. Recognition. Maybe nervousness, too. Hey, he said. Hey. They stood there for a moment, awkward as teenagers. Your car's out front, Liam said finally. Runs perfect now, like new. That's great. Thank you. Keys are with the valet. Okay. Another pause. So, Liam said. Coffee? Coffee. Marcel's was 2 blocks away, a small French place that somehow maintained authenticity despite being surrounded by corporate towers. They got a table by the window, ordered coffee, black for him, cappuccino for her. Then they sat there looking at each other over the small table, and Evelyn realized she had no idea what to say. Liam spoke first. This is weird, right? So weird. Okay, just making sure it wasn't just me. The honesty broke something open. Evelyn felt herself relax slightly. I don't usually do this, she said. Have coffee? Have coffee with someone I actually want to have coffee with. Liam almost smiled. That sounds depressing. It's been a lot of obligatory coffee. Blind dates set up by well-meaning friends? Exactly. Those always go well. You have experience with that? My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, has been trying to set me up for 3 years. I've learned to run when I see her coming with that particular look in her eye. Evelyn laughed. The coffee arrived. She wrapped her hands around the cup, grateful for something to hold. Can I ask you something? Liam said. Sure. Why'd you say yes to coffee? With me. The question was so direct it caught her off guard. But she was learning that was his way. No games, no angles, just honesty. Because you're different, she said. Everyone in my world wants something from me, a deal, a connection, an angle. You just helped me, because it was the right thing to do. That's a pretty low bar. You'd be surprised. Liam studied her for a moment. What's it like? Your world? Exhausting, competitive, lonely. The words came out before she could filter them. Sorry, that was honest, he finished. Don't apologize for honest. They talked for an hour, then 2. The coffee shop filled and emptied around them. Evelyn learned about Liam's late wife, Sarah, who died 4 years ago from cancer, about the struggle of raising a daughter alone while running a business, about the small town he'd grown up in and never really left. Liam asked about her company, her work, her life. Evelyn found herself telling him things she rarely admitted to anyone, about the pressure, the constant scrutiny, the way success felt more like a cage than an achievement. So why do it? Liam asked. If it makes you miserable. It doesn't make me miserable. It's just... She struggled for words. It's what I built. It's who I am. Is it, though? Who you are? The question sat heavy between them. I don't know anymore, Evelyn admitted quietly. Liam's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and grimaced. That's the school. Chloe's getting picked up in 20 minutes. You should go. Yeah. But he didn't move immediately. Can I ask you something else? Okay. Why are you still sitting here, with me? You could be in your office closing deals and making money. Instead, you're drinking coffee with a mechanic who's about to be late for school pickup. Evelyn met his eyes. Gray-blue. Honest. Real. Because this is the first time I've felt like myself in longer than I can remember, she said. Something shifted in Liam's expression. Yeah, he said softly. I know what you mean. They stood, walked outside together. The afternoon sun was bright, traffic rushing past in both directions. So, Liam said, is this the part where we pretend we're not going to see each other again? Is that what you want? No. Me neither. Okay then. He pulled out his phone. Can I have your actual number this time? Not just the one for car updates. Evelyn gave it to him. Their fingers brushed as he handed back the phone. I'll call you, he said. Okay. I mean it. I know. Liam started to leave, turned back. For what it's worth, he said, I think you're more than just your company, even if you don't see it yet. He walked away before she could respond. Evelyn stood on the sidewalk, watching him disappear into the crowd, feeling something in her chest that might have been hope or terror, or both. Her phone buzzed before she even made it back to the building. Made it to the school with 2 minutes to spare. Chloe wants to know if you're taking good care of her basil. Liam Evelyn smiled and typed, Tell her it's thriving, and thank you for coffee. Thank you for saying yes. She held her phone for a moment longer, then walked back inside to her office, her city, her life. Everything looked exactly the same. Everything felt completely different. Liam called 3 days later. Evelyn was in the middle of a presentation to the board when her phone lit up with his name. She ignored it, forced herself to focus on the slides showing quarterly projections and acquisition targets. But her mind kept drifting to the missed call, wondering if he'd leave a message, wondering if she should text him back immediately or wait. The presentation ended. The board members filed out, their faces showing the usual mix of approval and skepticism that came with managing other people's billions. Evelyn gathered her materials and checked her phone. One voicemail. She waited until she was back in her office, door closed, before listening to it. Hey, it's Liam. Chloe has a school thing on Saturday. Some kind of science fair. She's been working on this volcano project for weeks, and a pause. Voices in the background, Chloe's voice saying something Evelyn couldn't make out. Okay, I'm asking. She wants to know if you'd come to the science fair. It's at her school, starts at 10. You don't have to, obviously. It's just, she keeps talking about you, and I figured I'd ask. So, yeah, call me back if you want. The message ended. Evelyn played it again, listening to the slight nervousness in his voice, the way he stumbled over the words. A billionaire CEO getting invited to an elementary school science fair by a mechanic's 8-year-old daughter. Her calendar for Saturday showed 2 conference calls and a lunch meeting with potential investors. She texted Rebecca, "Clear my Saturday." The response came back immediately. All of it? All of it. Then she called Liam. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, I got your message. Right, the science fair thing. Look, if it's too weird. What time did you say it starts? A pause. 10, but seriously, you don't have to. I want to, if that's okay. She heard him exhale. Yeah, that's okay. More than okay. Chloe's going to lose her mind. Text me the address? Will do. Evelyn hung up and stared at her phone. She was going to an elementary school science fair. On a Saturday, instead of working. Margot was going to have a field day with this. Saturday morning arrived gray and cold. Evelyn stood in her closet trying to figure out what one wore to a grade school event. Everything she owned was either corporate or evening wear. She finally settled on dark jeans, a cream sweater, and ankle boots. Casual, normal. The kind of thing a regular person would wear. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. The school was 45 minutes outside the city, a squat brick building with a playground and a parking lot full of minivans and SUVs. Evelyn pulled her Aston Martin into a spot and immediately felt ridiculous. Every other vehicle was practical, family-oriented. Hers screamed money and excess. She found Liam standing near the entrance, Chloe bouncing excitedly beside him. The little girl wore a bright purple dress and had her hair pulled back with butterfly clips. You came! Chloe launched herself at Evelyn with the same enthusiasm she'd shown in the office. You really came. Of course I did. I wanted to see your volcano. It's so cool. I made it with Dad, and it actually erupts with vinegar and baking soda, and we put red food coloring in it, so it looks like real lava. Come on, I'll show you. Chloe grabbed Evelyn's hand and pulled her toward the entrance. Liam fell into step beside them. "Thanks for coming," he said quietly. "This means a lot to her. Thanks for inviting me." The gymnasium had been transformed into a maze of folding tables displaying projects, papier-mâché solar systems, poster boards about weather patterns, a working telegraph made from batteries and wire. Chloe's volcano sat at a table in the corner, a lumpy mountain of painted newspaper and cardboard. "This is amazing," Evelyn said, and meant it. "Do you want to see it erupt?" "Absolutely." Chloe carefully measured vinegar into a cup, added food coloring, then poured it into the crater. Red foam bubbled up and oozed down the sides. Other kids and parents gathered around to watch. Chloe beamed with pride. "That was incredible," Evelyn said. "Dad helped me with the measurements, but I did all the painting myself." "You did a great job." They wandered through the fair, Chloe introducing Evelyn to her friends and their projects: Madison's cloud in a jar, Tyler's homemade battery, Emma's ant farm that made Evelyn slightly uncomfortable, but she smiled anyway. Liam stayed close but quiet, letting Chloe lead the conversation. Every so often, Evelyn would catch him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not quite surprise. Maybe something like wonder. After an hour, the fair started winding down. Chloe had earned a blue ribbon for most explosive display, which made her happier than Evelyn had seen anyone over a piece of colored fabric. "Can Miss Carter come to lunch with us?" Chloe asked, looking between her father and Evelyn with hopeful eyes. Liam shifted his weight. "Chloe, she probably has plans." "Actually, I don't," Evelyn said. The lie came easily. Or maybe it wasn't a lie. Maybe she just decided her plans were changing. "Really?" Chloe's eyes went wide. "You can come?" "If your dad doesn't mind." Liam met her gaze. "I don't mind." They ended up at a diner 20 minutes from the school, the kind of place with vinyl booths and laminated menus and coffee that came in thick ceramic mugs. Chloe ordered a grilled cheese and fries. Liam got a burger. Evelyn asked for a salad and immediately regretted it when the massive plate arrived covered in ranch dressing and fried chicken. "You can order something else," Liam said, noticing her expression. "No, it's fine. I'm just used to—" She gestured vaguely at the salad. "Rabbit food?" "Expensive rabbit food." Chloe giggled. "You should try the fries. They're really good here." Evelyn stole a fry from Chloe's plate. It was greasy and salty, and possibly the best thing she'd tasted in months. "Okay, you were right." "Told you," Chloe grinned. "Dad, can Miss Carter come over and see my room? I want to show her my rock collection." Liam looked at Evelyn, a question in his eyes. She should say no. She had work waiting, emails, calls, the usual Saturday catch-up that kept her competitive and on top of everything. "I'd love to see your rock collection," she said. The drive to their house took 15 minutes down roads that got progressively smaller and more rural. Liam's place was a modest ranch-style home with peeling paint and a yard that needed mowing. Nothing like the polished suburban developments Evelyn occasionally drove past. This was real. Lived in. A little worn around the edges. Inside was clean but cluttered with the evidence of actual life. Shoes by the door. Chloe's backpack dumped on the couch. Dishes drying in a rack by the sink. Photos on the walls showing Chloe at various ages. And a few older ones of a woman with kind eyes and dark hair. Sarah, Evelyn realized. Liam's late wife. "Come on!" Chloe pulled her down the hallway to a small bedroom painted pale yellow. The walls were covered with drawings and posters. A bookshelf overflowed with stories and stuffed animals. And on the dresser sat a collection of rocks in a repurposed egg carton. Chloe proceeded to explain each rock in detail. Where she'd found it, why it was special, the names she'd given them, because naming rocks made them more interesting. Evelyn sat on the floor and listened to every word. When Chloe finally ran out of geological facts, she flopped onto her bed. "Do you want to see my drawings?" "Sure." Chloe pulled a sketchbook from under her pillow and flipped through pages of crayon and marker drawings. Flowers, rainbows, stick figure families, a dragon, several cats even though they didn't have a cat. Then she turned to a page that made Evelyn's breath catch. It was a drawing of 3 people, a man with dark hair, a little girl, and a woman in a fancy dress with yellow hair. "That's you," Chloe said, pointing to the blonde figure. "And that's me and Dad." I drew us as a family." Evelyn didn't know what to say. She looked up and found Liam standing in the doorway, his expression complicated. "Chloe," he said gently, "can you go wash up for a minute? I need to talk to Ms. Carter." "Okay." Chloe bounced up and disappeared down the hall. Liam came into the room and sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm sorry, she doesn't understand." "It's okay." "It's not. She's 8. She doesn't get that you have your own life, that this isn't—" He ran a hand through his hair. "I shouldn't have invited you here. This is moving too fast." "Is it?" He looked at her. Really looked at her. "I don't know. Maybe. Probably. You're this successful businesswoman who lives in a penthouse and drives a car worth more than my house. I'm a mechanic with a kid and a mortgage. This doesn't make sense." "No," Evelyn agreed. "It doesn't. So why are you here? Honestly, I don't know." She stood up, facing him. "Nothing about this makes sense. We shouldn't work. We're from completely different worlds. But when I'm with you and Chloe, I feel more like myself than I have in years, and that terrifies me." Liam stood too. They were close now, close enough that Evelyn could see the flecks of darker blue in his eyes. "You terrify me too," he said quietly. "You're this whole other universe I don't understand. But Chloe loves you already, and I—" He stopped. Started again. "I like you. More than I should. More than is probably smart. So what do we do?" "I have no idea." They stood there in Chloe's yellow bedroom, surrounded by stuffed animals and rock collections, two people from opposite sides of every divide that mattered, trying to figure out if any of this was possible. Chloe's voice called from the hallway. "Are you guys done talking? Can we watch a movie?" Liam smiled slightly. "You want to watch a movie?" Evelyn thought about her empty penthouse, her laptop waiting with unread emails, the life she'd built that felt increasingly like a beautifully decorated prison. "Yeah," she said. "I want to watch a movie." They ended up on the couch, Chloe wedged between them, watching some animated film about talking animals. Evelyn had no idea what was happening in the plot because she was too aware of Liam's arm stretched across the back of the couch, occasionally brushing her shoulder. Too aware of Chloe's running commentary about each character. Too aware that this felt more like home than anywhere she'd been in years. Halfway through the movie, Chloe fell asleep against Evelyn's side. "She does that," Liam whispered. "Gets all excited and then crashes hard." "Should I move?" "You'll wake her up. Just stay." So Evelyn stayed, a sleeping child leaning against her, a movie playing she wasn't watching, and a man beside her who made her question everything she thought she wanted from life. When the movie ended, Liam carefully lifted Chloe and carried her to bed. Evelyn heard him talking softly to her, the indistinct murmur of a father tucking in his daughter. When he came back, he found Evelyn standing by the window, looking out at the small backyard. "She's out cold," he said. "She'll sleep for an hour at least." "She's wonderful. You're doing an amazing job with her. Most days I feel like I'm barely holding it together." "That's called parenting, or so I've heard." Liam moved to stand beside her. "Can I ask you something?" "Seems to be your thing." He smiled briefly. "Do you actually want kids? A family? Or is this just— I don't know what this is." The question deserved honesty. "I always thought I didn't have time for a family," Evelyn said slowly. "That I'd missed that window. That I was too focused on building the company to build anything else. But lately," she turned to look at him. "Lately, I wonder if I was just scared. If it was easier to focus on work than to risk wanting something I might not be good at." "You're good with Chloe. She makes it easy." "She likes you because you treat her like a person, not just a kid. You listen when she talks about her rocks and her drawings like they actually matter. They do matter. To her. But you make them matter to you too. That's different." They were standing close again. Evelyn could feel the warmth of him, smell the faint scent of motor oil and laundry detergent that seemed permanently attached to him. "I should probably go," she said, not moving. "Probably. I have work tomorrow. It's Saturday. I always work Sundays." "That sounds terrible." "It is." Neither of them moved. "Evelyn," Liam said, his voice low, "I need to know if this is real for you. Because Chloe's already attached. And if this is just some kind of escape from your regular life, some temporary thing, I need to know now before she gets hurt." "And what about you?" "What about me?" Would you get hurt? He looked at her for a long moment. Yeah, I think I would. Evelyn's heart was hammering. I don't know what this is. I don't know if it can work, but it's not temporary. It's not an escape. It's the most real thing I've felt in years. Liam reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so gentle it made her chest ache. Okay, he said. Then we'll figure it out. Just like that? Just like that. He kissed her then, soft and careful, like he was afraid she might break. Evelyn kissed him back, her hands finding the front of his shirt, pulling him closer. He tasted like coffee and possibility. When they pulled apart, Liam rested his forehead against hers. You're sure about this? He asked. No, but I want to try anyway. Good enough for me. Evelyn left an hour later, driving back to the city as the sun set behind her. Her phone had 17 missed calls and 43 emails. The board meeting prep she'd planned to do, the contracts waiting for review. All of it could wait. For the first time in her professional life, Evelyn Carter prioritized something over work, and it felt incredible. The following weeks fell into a pattern that would have been unthinkable a month earlier. Evelyn still worked brutal hours during the week, but she started leaving at 7 instead of 9. She declined evening events. She learned to delegate things she'd previously insisted on handling herself. And every Saturday, she drove out to Liam's. Sometimes they went to Chloe's soccer games, where Evelyn sat on cold metal bleachers and cheered with surprising enthusiasm. Sometimes they had dinner at the house, Evelyn gradually learning how to cook simple things under Liam's patient instruction. Sometimes they just existed together, Chloe doing homework at the kitchen table, while Liam worked on paperwork, and Evelyn answered emails on her laptop. Domestic, normal. Everything her life had never been, everything she was starting to crave. But not everyone was thrilled with the changes. The confrontation came on a Tuesday afternoon. Evelyn was in her office when Marcus Webb, her VP of operations, knocked on the door. You have a minute? Sure. What's up? Marcus closed the door behind him and sat down uninvited. We need to talk about the Singapore deal. What about it? It's stalling. The team needs direction, and you've been... He paused, choosing his words carefully. Distracted lately. Evelyn set down her pen. I've been delegating. That's different. You've been absent. You left the Foster negotiation to Hamilton. You skipped the Deutsche Bank dinner. You're leaving by 7 most nights. And the company hasn't collapsed. Not yet. But people are talking, Evelyn. The board, the investors. They're wondering if you're still committed. I work 60 hours a week. That's committed. You used to work 80, 90 during acquisitions. Marcus leaned forward. Look, I don't know what's going on in your personal life, and frankly, it's none of my business. But this company is your legacy. You built it from nothing. Are you really going to let it fall apart because of some guy? The dismissiveness in his voice made her jaw tighten. Be very careful how you finish that sentence, she said quietly. I'm just saying, you're saying that a woman can't have a personal life and run a company at the same time. That's what you're saying. That's not... Would you be having this conversation if I were a man who'd started dating someone? If I were going to my kids' soccer games on Saturday? Marcus had the decency to look uncomfortable. This isn't about gender, isn't it? Because I'm still doing my job. I'm still making the hard calls. I'm still closing deals. I'm just not sacrificing every waking hour anymore. And apparently that's unacceptable. The board is concerned. Then let the board come talk to me themselves instead of sending you. Marcus stood. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. After he left, Evelyn sat staring at her desk. The Singapore deal folders, the acquisition proposals, the quarterly reports, everything she'd built, everything she'd sacrificed for. Was she really going to risk it all? Her phone buzzed. A text from Liam. Chloe wants to know if you're coming to her school play next week. She's playing a tree. She's very excited about being a tree. Evelyn smiled despite the tension still coiled in her shoulders. Of course I'm coming. Wouldn't miss it. Fair warning, the costume involves a lot of brown felt and leaves. I'm sure she'll be the most beautiful tree in the forest. You're a good liar, but we appreciate it. Evelyn set down her phone and turned back to her work. She could do both. She had to believe she could do both. The school play was exactly as chaotic as Evelyn expected. Chloe stood on stage wearing a brown bodysuit covered in felt leaves, her arms extended as branches, while other kids dressed as forest animals danced around her. She didn't have any lines, but she took her role very seriously, swaying gently to represent wind. Evelyn sat between Liam and an elderly woman who turned out to be the infamous Mrs. Patterson. "So you're the famous Evelyn," Mrs. Patterson whispered during the performance. "Chloe talks about you constantly, the princess lady from the city." "I'm not really a princess." "Maybe not, but you make that little girl happy. That's worth something." After the play, they went for ice cream. Chloe was still buzzing with post-performance energy, talking a mile a minute about how she'd almost fallen over during the second act, but caught herself, and how Madison forgot her line, but the teacher said it was okay. "You were perfect," Evelyn told her. "I was just a tree." "The best tree I've ever seen," Chloe beamed. Later, after they'd dropped Chloe at home with Mrs. Patterson for a sleepover, Liam and Evelyn drove to a quiet spot overlooking the valley. They sat in the truck bed, looking at the lights scattered across the darkness below. "Can I tell you something?" Liam said. "Always. I'm scared I'm going to lose you, that one day you'll wake up and realize this life isn't enough, that I'm not enough." Evelyn turned to look at him. "Why would you think that?" "Because I've seen your world, the penthouse, the company, the power, and I'm just—" He gestured vaguely at himself. "This, a mechanic in a small town with a kid and a mortgage. You say that like it's not enough, like somehow what you've built isn't as valuable as what I've built. Isn't it, though? You change markets, I change oil. You're raising an incredible human being. You're teaching her to be kind and curious and brave. You help people fix their cars so they can get to work, to school, to the hospital. You matter, Liam. Maybe not to boardrooms or financial magazines, but to real people living real lives." He was quiet for a moment. "You really believe that?" "I do. And honestly, lately I've been wondering if my work matters at all. If making rich people richer through acquisition after acquisition is actually contributing anything meaningful to the world." "That's heavy." "It's true, though. I've spent 10 years building a company that makes money. That's it. That's what I've dedicated my life to. And when I'm gone, what will be left? Another corporation, more wealth concentration, nothing that actually helps people." Liam took her hand. "So change it." "It's not that simple." "Why not? You're the CEO. If you can't change things, who can?" The question sat between them, challenging and obvious. Why couldn't she? "I'd have to fight the board," Evelyn said slowly. "The investors. They care about returns, not impact. So fight them." "I could lose everything." "Or you could build something that actually matters." Evelyn leaned her head on his shoulder. Above them, stars scattered across the sky in patterns she'd forgotten existed. "How'd you get so smart?" she asked. "Spent a lot of time thinking while elbow deep in transmissions." She laughed. "I'm serious. So am I. Some of my best philosophical breakthroughs happen around hour 3 of a complicated repair." They sat there until the cold drove them back to the truck. Liam drove Evelyn back to her car at his house. Before she got out, he pulled her close and kissed her like he was trying to memorize the moment. "What was that for?" she asked when they pulled apart. "Just in case you wake up tomorrow and remember you're a billionaire and I'm not." "Liam, I know. I'm being stupid, but I've lost someone I loved before. It makes you paranoid." Evelyn cupped his face in her hands. "I'm not going anywhere. Promise?" "Promise." She drove back to the city that night with her mind racing. By the time she reached her penthouse, she'd made a decision. Monday morning, she called an emergency board meeting. The conference room filled with confused executives and skeptical board members. Evelyn stood at the head of the table and took a breath. "I'm proposing we restructure the company's mission," she said. "Moving forward, I want Carter Holdings to focus on sustainable acquisitions that prioritize employee welfare and community impact over pure profit." Silence. Then everyone started talking at once. "That's financial suicide. Our investors will revolt. Have you lost your mind?" Evelyn raised her hand. The room went quiet. "I built this company," she said calmly. "I've made you all very wealthy in the process. Now I'm asking you to trust me again. We can make money and make a difference. They're not mutually exclusive." Robert Hamilton stood up. "This is insane. We have fiduciary responsibilities. which I'm fulfilling. I'm not proposing we become a charity. I'm proposing we build something sustainable, something that lasts because it actually improves the world instead of just extracting value from it. The shareholders will never approve this. I'm the majority shareholder, and I'm not asking for approval. I'm informing you of the direction we're taking. More arguments, more objections. But Evelyn stood firm. By the end of the meeting, she'd made one thing clear. The company was changing, and if they didn't want to be part of it, they could leave. 3 executives resigned that week. 2 board members threatened lawsuits. The financial press had a field day speculating about Evelyn Carter's apparent breakdown. But something else happened too. Applications for positions at Carter Holdings tripled. Younger talent, people who cared about impact, started reaching out. Investment firms focused on ESG criteria wanted meetings. And for the first time in years, Evelyn felt like she was building something that mattered. She called Liam that night. "I did something kind of crazy," she said. "How crazy?" "I potentially destroyed my company in order to save it." "That sounds very dramatic." "It was. Still is. Might blow up in my face." "But you did it anyway?" "Yeah." She could hear the smile in his voice. "I'm proud of you." 3 words, simple, honest. They meant everything. "Come have dinner with us this weekend," Liam said. "Chloe's been asking about you." "I'd love to." "Good. Fair warning, though, I'm making spaghetti and it's going to be a disaster. I always make too much sauce." "I like too much sauce." "Then you'll fit right in." Evelyn hung up and looked around her penthouse, at the expensive furniture and designer artwork and all the trappings of success that had once meant everything. They still looked empty. But now she had somewhere else to be, somewhere that felt like home. The spaghetti dinner turned into a regular Friday night ritual. Every week, Evelyn would leave the city by 5, drive the familiar route to Liam's house, and spend the evening covered in flour or tomato sauce or whatever cooking disaster they'd decided to attempt. Chloe would sit at the kitchen table doing homework or drawing, occasionally offering commentary on their culinary failures. It was domestic and messy, and nothing like the life Evelyn had planned. It was perfect. But the changes at Carter Holdings were creating fractures she hadn't anticipated. By the end of the 3rd month, the company had lost 2 major investors and several key accounts. The board was in open revolt. Her CFO had started sending passive-aggressive emails about fiduciary responsibility, and the financial press was having a field day. "Carter's Collapse: How One Woman Destroyed a Billion-Dollar Empire," read the headline in Forbes. The Wall Street Journal was only slightly more charitable, with investment giant Carter Holdings pivots away from profit. Evelyn sat in her office reading the articles, her stomach churning. Maybe Marcus had been right. Maybe she was destroying everything she'd built. Maybe trying to do good and make money at the same time was naive. Her phone rang. Liam. She almost didn't answer. Didn't want to admit how badly things were going, but she picked up anyway. "Hey," she said, trying to sound normal. "You okay? You sound off." "Just tired. Long week." "Bullshit. What's wrong?" Evelyn closed her laptop. "How do you always know?" "Because I'm paying attention. Talk to me." So she did. She told him about the investor exodus, the board pressure, the media criticism, about lying awake at 3 a.m. wondering if she'd made a catastrophic mistake, about the voice in her head that sounded suspiciously like her father telling her she was throwing away everything that mattered. Liam listened without interrupting. When she finally ran out of words, he was quiet for a moment. "You want my opinion?" he asked. "Always." "Screw them." Evelyn laughed despite herself. "That's your advice? Screw them. Yeah, you're doing something hard, something that matters. Of course people are pushing back. Change is scary, especially when it threatens their money. But that doesn't mean you're wrong." "What if I am, though? What if I'm tanking the company for nothing?" "Then you fail. You pick yourself up and try something else. But at least you'll fail doing something you believe in instead of succeeding at something that makes you miserable." That's easy to say when it's not your billion-dollar company. You're right, it's not. But I've watched you these past few months. You smile more. You sleep better. You actually seem like you give a damn about your work instead of just going through the motions. That's worth something. Evelyn pressed her fingers against her eyes. "When did you become the wise one in this relationship?" "I've always been wise. You just finally started listening." "Relationship?" A pause. "Yeah, I mean, That's what this is, right? I don't know, is it? Do you want it to be? The question hung between them. They'd been dancing around it for months, spending weekends together, talking every day, but neither had actually said the words. Yeah, Evelyn said quietly. I do. She could hear the smile in his voice. Good. Me too. Now come over tonight. Chloe made you something and she's been bugging me all day about when you're coming to see it. It's Thursday. So? We do Fridays. New rule. You come over whenever you want. We'll figure out the rest. Evelyn looked at the stack of work on her desk, the emails waiting, the crisis that needed managing. Then she thought about Chloe's gap-toothed smile and Liam's rough hands, and the way his small house felt more like home than her penthouse ever had. I'll be there in an hour, she said. She made the drive in 53 minutes. Chloe met her at the door holding a painting, still wet around the edges. It showed 3 stick figures standing in front of a house, one tall with dark hair, one small with curly hair, one with yellow hair and a blue dress. I made this in art class, Chloe said proudly. That's our family, see? That's you, and that's Dad, and that's me. Evelyn's throat tightened. It's beautiful. You can hang it in your office if you want, so you remember us when you're working. I'd love that. Thank you. Chloe beamed and ran off to wash her hands, leaving Evelyn standing in the doorway holding the painting. Liam appeared from the kitchen, dish towel over his shoulder. She's been working on that all week, he said. Liam, she drew us as a family. I know. That's a lot of pressure. I know that too. He came closer, his voice lowering. If it's too much, tell me. I can talk to her. Explain that. No? Don't. Evelyn looked down at the painting. I want to be part of this, part of your family. It terrifies me, and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I want it. Liam kissed her forehead. Nobody knows what they're doing. We're all just making it up as we go. Even you? Especially me. Some days I'm convinced I'm screwing up everything. Then Chloe does something like make you a painting, and I think maybe I'm getting something right. They had dinner that night, the 3 of them around the small kitchen table. Evelyn helped Chloe with her math homework, which was surprisingly difficult for 3rd grade work. Liam did dishes while Evelyn read Chloe a bedtime story about dragons and princesses. After Chloe was asleep, Evelyn and Liam sat on the back porch with beers, looking at the stars scattered across the dark sky. Can I ask you something? Liam said. You always do. What would it take to make you actually happy? Not comfortable or successful, actually happy. Evelyn considered the question. 6 months ago, she would have said closing a bigger deal, buying a nicer car, getting featured in more magazines. Now those things felt hollow. This, she said finally, nights like this, Chloe's paintings, you, a life that feels real instead of performed. You could have that. I have a company to run. Do you? Or do you have a company you're holding on to because letting go feels like failure? The observation cut deeper than she expected. You think I should quit? I think you should do what makes you happy. If that's restructuring the company, great. If it's stepping back, also great. But don't keep doing something that's killing you just because you're afraid of what people will think. I built Carter Holdings from nothing. I know, and it's impressive as hell, but it's not who you are. It's just something you made. You're allowed to make something different. Evelyn took a long drink of her beer. My father would hate this. All of it. He raised me to be ruthless, to never show weakness, to win at any cost. Is he still alive? No. Heart attack 5 years ago. Did you love him? I respected him. I wanted to make him proud. I'm not sure that's the same as love. And did you? Make him proud? Evelyn thought about her father, the corporate titan who'd taught her that business was war and sentiment was weakness. She thought about the last conversation they'd had 3 days before he died, where he'd told her she was finally becoming the kind of leader he'd always known she could be. Cold, calculating, alone. Yeah, she said quietly. I made him proud, and I've been trying to be the person he wanted ever since. What do you want? I want to be someone Chloe can look up to. Someone who does work that matters. Someone who doesn't come home to an empty apartment and wonder why success feels so much like failure. Liam set down his beer and took her hand. Then be that person. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I have responsibilities. Employees who depend on me. Investors who what? Who'll find another place to park their money? Evelyn, you're not responsible for everyone's financial security. You're responsible for your own life. And right now you're wasting it trying to be someone you're not. The words hit like a slap, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. I don't know how to be anyone else, she admitted. So figure it out. You're the smartest person I know. If you can build a billion-dollar company, you can build a life that doesn't make you miserable. They sat in silence after that, holding hands in the darkness. Above them, satellites moved across the sky, disguised as stars. Evelyn wondered how many things in her life were fake, masquerading as real. She left late that night, driving back to the city with her mind racing. By the time she reached her building, she'd made another decision. Monday morning, she called her attorney. I want to step down as CEO, she said. The lawyer nearly dropped the phone. I'm sorry, what? You heard me. I want to transition out. Promote someone internal who can execute the new vision. I'll stay on the board, maintain my shares, but I'm done running day-to-day operations. Evelyn, you can't just... This is insane. The company is in crisis. Now is the worst possible time to... Now is the perfect time. The company needs someone who believes in the new direction completely. Someone who isn't fighting their own demons every step of the way. That's not me anymore. What will you do? I'm going to start something new, something smaller, something that actually helps people instead of just moving money around. The attorney was silent for a long moment. You're serious? Completely. The board will fight this. Let them. I'm still majority shareholder. They can complain all they want, but they can't stop me. It took 6 weeks to make it official. 6 weeks of lawyers and negotiations and heated board meetings where grown men yelled at her for abandoning her legacy. But Evelyn stood firm. She promoted Elena Rodriguez, her VP of Strategic Development, to CEO. Elena was brilliant and passionate about the new mission. She'd do better than Evelyn ever could. The financial press went nuclear. Carter walks away. Billionaire, CEO. Steps down amid company turmoil. What's really going on at Carter Holdings? From corner office to career suicide, the fall of Evelyn Carter. Evelyn read the headlines and felt nothing. Or rather, she felt relief. She met Margot for lunch the day the announcement went public. Her friend looked shell-shocked. You actually did it, Margot said. You walked away. I didn't walk away, I chose something different. Everyone thinks you're having a breakdown. Let them think what they want. Margot studied her across the table. You look happy. I am happy. Because of him, the mechanic. Because of me. Because I finally figured out what I actually want from life. Liam's part of that, but he's not the whole reason. So what are you going to do now? I'm starting a foundation, providing resources and support for single parents, legal aid, financial counseling, childcare assistance, the things Liam had to figure out alone when Sarah died, the things that make the difference between survival and stability. Margot's expression softened. That's actually perfect for you. You think so? Yeah, you've always been good at fixing broken systems. Might as well fix ones that actually matter. They talked for another hour about logistics and planning. When they finally parted ways, Margot hugged her hard. I'm proud of you, she said, even if I think you're completely insane. Thanks, I think. Evelyn drove out to Liam's that evening, arriving just as he was closing up the garage. He looked up when he heard her car, surprise crossing his face. You're early. Chloe's still at soccer practice. I know, I wanted to talk to you first. Concern flickered in his expression. That sounds ominous. It's not. Evelyn got out of the car and walked to where he stood in the garage doorway. I stepped down as CEO. Liam went very still. What? I'm starting a foundation instead, something that actually helps people. I'll still be comfortable financially, but I won't be running the company anymore. When did you decide this? Weeks ago. I've been working on the transition. It went public today. And you didn't tell me? I needed to be sure it was what I wanted, not what you wanted, not what anyone else wanted, just me. Liam ran a hand through his hair. Evelyn, that's huge. Are you sure? Completely. You're not going to regret it? Maybe sometimes, but I'll regret wasting my life on work I hate more. He pulled her into a hug, holding her tight. You're terrifying, you know that? Good terrifying or bad terrifying? The best kind. They picked up Chloe from practice together. The little girl was covered in grass stains and mud, talking excitedly about the goal she almost scored. She barely paused for breath when she saw Evelyn. You're here. Did you see me almost score? It was so close. Coach said I'm getting really good at dribbling. I'm sorry I missed it, but I'll be at the next game for sure. Promise? Promise. At dinner that night, Evelyn told Chloe about the foundation. The little girl listened with serious attention. So you're going to help families like ours? Chloe asked. Families where one parent is raising kids alone. Yeah. That's really nice. Mrs. Patterson says single parents have it hard. She tries to help Dad out, but she's old and can't do everything. Chloe, Liam said gently, Mrs. Patterson isn't that old. She's like 100. She's 62. That's basically 100. Evelyn laughed. The foundation will help with things like childcare and legal help, so parents like your dad don't have to do everything alone. Chloe considered this seriously. Will you still have time to come see us? The question hit Evelyn square in the chest. Yeah, sweetheart, I'll have more time, actually. That's kind of the point. Good, because I like when you're here. It feels right. After Chloe went to bed, Liam found Evelyn standing in the backyard, looking at the overgrown garden. She's right, you know, he said. It does feel right when you're here. Yeah? Yeah, the house is less empty. Chloe's happier. He paused. I'm the happiest I've been since Sarah died, and that's because of you. Evelyn turned to face him. I'm scared I'm going to screw this up. I don't know how to do this, how to be part of a family, how to be a mother figure to a child who isn't mine, how to build a life that isn't about work. Nobody knows how to do any of that. You just do it and hope you don't mess up too badly. Very inspiring. I'm serious. You think I knew what I was doing when Sarah died? I was 30 years old with a 4-year-old daughter and no idea how to braid hair or help with homework or explain why Mommy wasn't coming back. I just figured it out day by day, and you will too. What if Chloe gets hurt? If this doesn't work out between us? Then we deal with it. But running away now because you're scared of hurting her later doesn't protect anyone. It just guarantees she loses you. The truth of it settled over Evelyn like a weight. She'd spent her whole life protecting herself from potential failure by never risking anything real. And look where that had gotten her, successful and alone. I love you, she said suddenly. The words came out before she'd planned them, raw and unpolished. Liam's eyes widened. Yeah? Yeah. I love you, and I love Chloe, and I want to be part of this messy, complicated, beautiful life you've built. If you'll let me. He kissed her then, deep and certain. When they pulled apart, he was smiling. I love you too. Have for a while now. Just didn't want to scare you off by saying it. I don't scare easy. Biggest lie you've ever told. Okay, fine, I scare constantly, but I'm doing it anyway. That's called bravery. That's called stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing. They went inside and sat on the couch. Evelyn curled against Liam's side. The house was quiet, except for the old refrigerator humming in the kitchen and the occasional car passing on the road outside. Move in with us, Liam said suddenly. Evelyn's heart skipped. What? Move in, with me and Chloe. You're here most weekends anyway, and you're starting this new thing. You can work from anywhere, so move in. Liam, that's huge. We've only been together 6 months. So? When you know, you know. Do you know? Yeah, I know you're it for me. I know Chloe adores you. I know this house feels empty when you're not in it. So move in with us. Evelyn sat up to look at him properly. You're serious. Completely serious. I have a penthouse in the city. Sell it. Rent it out. Keep it as a backup. I don't care. Just be here. With us. What about Chloe? Shouldn't we ask her first? Kid's been asking me when you're moving in for 2 months. She'll be thrilled. Evelyn thought about her penthouse, the 3,000 square feet of designer perfection that had never felt like home, the empty rooms, the silence, the life she'd built alone. Then she thought about this small house with its peeling paint and squeaky floors, About Chloe's rock collection and Liam's garage. About Friday night dinners and helping with homework and being part of something real. Okay, she said. Okay? Okay, I'll move in. Liam's face broke into the biggest smile she'd ever seen on him. He picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing like idiots. When? He asked, setting her down. I don't know. I have to figure out what to do with my stuff, and I'll need office space for the foundation work. And next month. That's fast. Too fast? Evelyn thought about it. Really thought about it. A month ago, she'd been CEO of a billion-dollar company, living alone in a penthouse, working 80-hour weeks. Now she was planning to move into a modest house with a mechanic and his daughter. Her father would have been horrified. The thought made her smile. No, she said. It's perfect. They told Chloe the next morning over pancakes. The little girl shrieked so loud the neighbors probably heard, then ran around the kitchen doing what she called her happy dance. You're really moving in? Like, for real? Forever? For real, Evelyn confirmed. If that's okay with you. Okay? It's the best thing ever. You can have the guest room and we can paint it whatever color you want, and you'll be here for breakfast every day and we can plant a garden together and… Breathe, kiddo, Liam said, laughing. But Chloe was already off and running with plans. She made Evelyn a list of all the things they'd do together now that she'd be living there. Movie nights, baking cookies, planting flowers in spring, getting a dog. We're not getting a dog, Liam said. But Ms. Evelyn said I should get a dog when I was lonely. And now she's here so she can help take care of it. I walked right into that one, Evelyn said. You really did. The next few weeks were a blur of logistics. Evelyn put her penthouse on the market, and it sold in 48 hours for twice what she'd paid. She moved her clothes and books, and the few things she actually cared about to Liam's house. The rest went to storage or charity. She set up a home office in the guest room, buying a desk and filing cabinets and everything she'd need to run the foundation from there. Chloe helped her arrange furniture and pick out curtains, taking the job very seriously. The foundation was coming together too. Evelyn had hired a small staff and secured partnerships with legal clinics and childcare centers. They were launching a pilot program in 3 cities, providing comprehensive support to 50 families to start. It was real work, important work, the kind of thing that mattered. And she could do it from a home office in a small town, surrounded by people she loved. On the day Evelyn officially moved in, Mrs. Patterson brought over a casserole as a housewarming gift. Half the neighborhood seemed to find excuses to stop by. Chloe gave tours of Evelyn's new room to anyone who'd listen, proud as anything. That night, after Chloe was asleep and the house was finally quiet, Evelyn and Liam sat on the back porch with beers, looking at the stars. How does it feel? Liam asked. First night in your new home. Evelyn thought about the question, about the journey that had brought her here, about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, successful, lonely, trapped in a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt empty within. Right, she said finally. It feels right. Liam took her hand. Good. They sat there in comfortable silence, 2 people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way. A billionaire and a mechanic. A woman who'd had everything and a man who'd lost the person he loved most. Both of them building something new from the broken pieces of their old lives. Above them, stars scattered across the darkness. In the distance, a dog barked. The night was cool and clear and full of possibilities. Evelyn leaned her head on Liam's shoulder and smiled. For the first time in 30 years, she was exactly where she belonged. Living together was harder than Evelyn expected. Not because of Liam or Chloe, but because she kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. For the moment when this fragile, beautiful thing they'd built would shatter, and she'd be left standing in the wreckage, wondering why she'd ever thought she deserved happiness. 3 months after moving in, she woke up at 2 a.m. in a cold sweat, her heart racing. Liam stirred beside her. You okay? Fine. Just a dream. Liar. He turned on the bedside lamp. Talk to me. Evelyn sat up, pulling her knees to her chest. I keep thinking this is going to fall apart, that I'm going to mess it up somehow, that one day you'll realize I'm not cut out for this life and you'll ask me to leave. Where's this coming from? I don't know. Everywhere. I failed at my company. I walked away from everything I built. What if I fail at this too? Liam was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You didn't fail at your company. You chose something different. That's not the same thing. The financial press would disagree. Since when do you care what the financial press thinks? Since I spent 15 years obsessing over what they wrote about me. He pulled her close. You're not going to fail at this. And even if you do sometimes, so what? Nobody gets family right all the time. I screw up constantly. Last week I forgot Chloe had a field trip and she had to call me from school. The week before that I burned dinner so badly we had to order pizza. I'm a mess, Evelyn. But I keep trying, and so will you. What if I can't give her what she needs? I don't know how to be a mother. Neither did Sarah at first. Neither does any parent. You think there's a manual? We're all just doing our best and hoping it's enough. Evelyn rested her head on his shoulder. I love her so much it scares me. Yeah, that's parenthood, constant terror that you're going to screw up this little person who trusts you completely. How do you live with that? Badly. And then you wake up the next day and try again. They sat there in the darkness until Evelyn's breathing steadied and the panic receded. This was new too, this being known by someone else. This vulnerability that felt dangerous and necessary all at once. The foundation was growing faster than Evelyn had anticipated. Within 6 months, they'd expanded to 8 cities and were helping over 200 families. She hired more staff, built partnerships with organizations across the country, and found herself working harder than she had at Carter Holdings. But it was different now. This work mattered. Every family they helped, every single parent who didn't have to choose between childcare and making rent, every kid who got the support they needed, it all added up to something real. One afternoon, a woman named Jennifer came to the office. She was 34, recently divorced, raising 2 kids while working 2 jobs. The foundation had helped her with legal fees during the divorce and connected her with affordable childcare. I just wanted to say thank you, Jennifer said, her voice shaking slightly. 6 months ago, I didn't know how I was going to survive. Now my kids are in a good daycare. I got a promotion at work, and I'm actually sleeping at night. You gave me my life back. After Jennifer left, Evelyn sat in her office and cried. Not sad tears, relief, purpose. The bone-deep satisfaction of knowing her work actually helped people instead of just moving numbers around on a spreadsheet. This was what success was supposed to feel like. Chloe's 9th birthday arrived in early October. She wanted a party at the house with her friends from school. Evelyn spent 2 weeks planning it with the intensity she'd once reserved for corporate acquisitions. Decorations, games, a cake shaped like a unicorn that looked nothing like a unicorn, but Chloe loved anyway. The party was chaos. 12 9-year-olds running around the backyard, high on sugar and excitement. Evelyn had no idea what she was doing. Liam wasn't much better. But they stumbled through it together, refereeing arguments about whose turn it was on the swing and cleaning up spilled juice and somehow keeping all the children alive until their parents came to pick them up. When the last kid left, Evelyn collapsed on the couch. How do teachers do this every day? They're superheroes. Or masochists. Maybe both. Liam sat beside her, equally exhausted. But Chloe had a great time. That's what matters. Chloe came running into the living room, still wearing her party hat, her face flushed with happiness. That was the best birthday ever. Thank you, thank you, thank you. She threw her arms around both of them. Evelyn held her close, breathing in the smell of cake and kid sweat and pure joy. You're welcome, sweetheart. Can I ask you something? Chloe said, pulling back to look at Evelyn seriously. Always. Can I call you Mom? Not like instead of my real mom, but like because you are kind of my mom now, if that's okay. Evelyn's throat closed up. She looked at Liam, who had tears in his eyes. He nodded slightly. Yeah, Evelyn managed. That's more than okay. Okay, good, because I've been wanting to, but I wasn't sure if it was allowed. Chloe hugged her again. Love you, Mom. Love you too, baby. After Chloe went to bed that night, Evelyn stood in the backyard trying to process what had just happened. She was a mother now. Not officially, not legally, but in all the ways that mattered. A 9-year-old girl had just chosen to call her mom. The responsibility of it was staggering. Liam found her there, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. You okay? I'm terrified. Good. Means you're taking it seriously. What if I let her down? You won't. And if you do sometimes, she'll forgive you. Kids are resilient like that. I want to do right by her, by both of you. Then you will. You're the most determined person I've ever met. When you commit to something, you go all in. He paused. Speaking of which, I have something to ask you. Okay? Liam took a breath, pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it to reveal a simple diamond ring. Evelyn's heart stopped. I know this is fast, he said. I know we've only been together a year, but I also know I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I know I want Chloe to have you as her mom, officially, legally, permanently. I know I love you more than I thought I could love anyone after Sarah. So, Evelyn Carter, will you marry me? Evelyn looked at the ring, at Liam's hopeful, nervous face, at the small house with the peeling paint and overgrown garden, at the life she'd stumbled into when her car broke down on a country road. This wasn't the life she'd planned. It wasn't the success she'd imagined. It wasn't anything her father would have wanted for her. It was everything she'd never known she needed. Yes, she said. Yes, absolutely yes. Liam's face broke into the biggest smile she'd ever seen. He slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, and kissed her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. They told Chloe the next morning. She screamed so loud Mrs. Patterson called to make sure everything was okay. Then she immediately started planning the wedding, complete with detailed drawings of dresses and flowers, and something involving doves that Evelyn gently discouraged. Can I be the flower girl? You can be whatever you want, Evelyn said. And can we get a dog after the wedding? Because then we'll officially be a family, and families should have dogs. Liam and Evelyn looked at each other. We'll think about it, Liam said. That's parent code for yes. Chloe ran off to tell Mrs. Patterson the news. They got married 6 months later in the backyard of their house. It was small and simple and nothing like the elaborate society wedding Evelyn's younger self had vaguely imagined. 50 people. Folding chairs. Flowers from the local grocery store. Chloe in a purple dress, beaming with pride as she walked down the makeshift aisle, scattering rose petals. Margot was there, crying into her expensive handkerchief. Mrs. Patterson dabbed at her eyes. Half the town had shown up, people Evelyn had come to know over the past year. Her neighbors, Chloe's teachers, regular customers from Liam's garage, her community. When Liam said his vows, his voice cracked. A year and a half ago, a woman's car broke down outside my garage. I had no idea that helping her would change my entire life. Evelyn, you walked into our lives and made us whole again. You gave Chloe a mother. You gave me a partner. You gave us both a future we'd stopped believing was possible. I promise to love you, support you, and never let you forget how extraordinary you are. Evelyn's turn. She'd written and rewritten her vows a dozen times, trying to find words adequate to the enormity of what she felt. In the end, she went with honesty. Liam, I spent 30 years building a life I thought I was supposed to want. Success, money, power, I had it all, and I was miserable. Then my car broke down on the wrong road, and suddenly I was exactly where I was supposed to be. You taught me that real success isn't measured in dollars or deals. It's measured in moments like this. In Chloe's laughter, in Friday night dinners, in choosing love over fear every single day. I promise to be the best mother I can be to Chloe, to be your partner in all things, to never stop choosing this life, this family, this love. They exchanged rings. His had belonged to his grandfather. Hers was the simple diamond she already wore. The officiant pronounced them married. They kissed while everyone cheered. Chloe pushed between them for a group hug. We're a real family now. We were always a real family, kiddo, Liam said. Now we're just official. The reception was potluck style, everyone bringing dishes. They danced in the backyard to music from someone's iPhone speaker. Evelyn's expensive wedding shoes came off after 20 minutes, traded for bare feet in the grass. She danced with Liam, with Chloe, with Mrs. Patterson, who insisted she'd been right all along about Evelyn being perfect for them. As the sun set and string lights came on, Evelyn found herself standing at the edge of the yard, watching her wedding reception. This messy, imperfect, beautiful celebration of a life she'd never planned. Margot appeared beside her, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. You look happy, Margot said, handing her a glass. I am happy. Like genuinely happy. Not just successful or comfortable. Actually happy. Yeah, it took 30 years and a broken transmission to figure out what that felt like. Margot clinked her glass against Evelyn's. Your father would have hated all of this. I know. Good. He was kind of an asshole. Evelyn laughed. He was. But he made me who I am, even if who I am now is nothing like who he wanted me to be. You think you would have found this if you hadn't built the company first? If you hadn't done the whole ruthless CEO thing? It was a good question. Evelyn thought about the woman she'd been before. The drive, the ambition, the relentless pursuit of more. All of it had been necessary to get her here, to teach her what mattered and what didn't. No, she said finally. I had to learn what I didn't want before I could figure out what I did want. I don't regret any of it, even the miserable parts. They brought me here. Well, I'm glad your car broke down. Me too. They stood there watching the party. Chloe was teaching some of the other kids a dance she'd made up. Liam was talking with neighbors, one arm around a beer, the other gesturing animatedly about something. Normal people doing normal things. Evelyn's people doing normal things. 2 years after the wedding, the foundation had grown beyond anything Evelyn had imagined. They were operating in 23 cities now, helping over 1,000 families. She'd hired a full management team and could have stepped back, let others run the day-to-day operations. But she didn't want to. This work fulfilled her in ways nothing else ever had. She still traveled sometimes for speaking engagements and fundraising, but she always came home. To the house with the perpetually peeling paint that Liam kept meaning to fix. To Chloe, now 11 and full of opinions about everything. To the dog they'd finally gotten, a rescue mutt named Biscuit who was equal parts adorable and destructive. To the life she'd chosen. One evening, Evelyn was in her home office reviewing grant applications when Chloe appeared in the doorway. Mom, can I ask you something? Always? Evelyn set down her work, giving Chloe her full attention. Madison's parents are getting divorced. She's really sad about it. I told her it gets better, but I don't really remember my mom dying. Does it get better? The question caught Evelyn off guard. They didn't talk about Sarah much. Not because it was forbidden, but because the grief had settled into something quieter over the years. Come here, Evelyn said, gesturing to the chair beside her desk. Chloe sat, looking smaller than her 11 years. It does get better, Evelyn said carefully. Not because the loss stops mattering, but because you learn to carry it differently. Your mom will always be part of you. And that's okay. That's good even. Do you think she'd be mad that I call you Mom? No, baby. I think she'd be grateful that you have someone who loves you. That's all any parent wants. Dad says I have her smile. And her stubbornness. You definitely have the stubbornness. Chloe smiled slightly. Will you tell Madison it gets better? She likes you. She thinks you're cool because you used to be a CEO. I'll talk to her. And maybe we can connect her mom with the foundation. We have support groups for parents going through divorce. You help with that too? We help with everything. That's the point. Chloe hugged her suddenly, fiercely. I'm glad you're my mom. I'm glad I'm your mom too. After Chloe left, Evelyn sat for a moment, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. This beautiful, complicated responsibility of motherhood, of being the person a child turned to when the world felt scary and uncertain. She thought about her own mother, who died when Evelyn was 16. About the distance that had always existed between them, her mother uncomfortable with her daughter's ambition, her father's intensity. About all the conversations they'd never had. She thought about Sarah, the woman in the photographs scattered throughout the house, the mother who'd loved Chloe for her first 4 years, the wife who'd built a life with Liam before illness stole her away. Evelyn would never replace her. Didn't want to. But she could honor Sarah's memory by loving the daughter she'd left behind, by giving Chloe the kind of mother she deserved. That night at dinner, Liam was quieter than usual. You okay? Evelyn asked while Chloe was in the other room doing homework. Just thinking. About? About how different life is now. How if someone had told me 3 years ago that I'd be sitting here with you, married, happy, I wouldn't have believed them. After Sarah died, I thought that was it. One chance at love and I'd had mine. And now? Now I think maybe we get more than one chance. If we're lucky. If we're brave enough to take it. Evelyn reached across the table, took his hand. I'm glad you took the chance. Me too. Even if it meant dealing with your overpriced car. That overpriced car brought me to you, worth every penny of the transmission repair. $13,000 to meet your future wife. Not a bad investment. They both laughed. Chloe called from the living room that she needed help with her math homework. Liam stood, kissed Evelyn's forehead, and went to help their daughter. Our daughter, Evelyn thought, not just his, ours. The following spring, they finally repainted the house. Evelyn hired professionals because watching Liam attempt home improvement was equal parts endearing and terrifying. They chose a soft yellow that Chloe loved, with white trim that made the whole place look less run down. The yard got attention too. They planted the garden Chloe had wanted since the beginning. Vegetables and flowers mixed together in cheerful chaos. Biscuit immediately dug up half of it, but they replanted and installed a fence. The house was transforming, becoming something that matched the life inside it. Not perfect, not polished, but theirs. One Saturday afternoon, Evelyn was weeding the garden when a car pulled up. Expensive car. BMW. A woman got out dressed in a business suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Elena Rodriguez, her replacement as CEO of Carter Holdings. Evelyn stood, wiping dirt from her hands. Elena, this is a surprise. I hope it's okay that I just showed up. I was in the area and thought... Elena trailed off, looking around. This is really where you live? This is home. Come on, I'll give you the tour. Inside, Evelyn made coffee while Elena perched carefully on the couch, clearly uncomfortable in the modest surroundings. I'm sorry to intrude, Elena said. I just wanted to update you on the company and maybe get some advice. What's going on? The new initiatives are working. We're profitable again. The sustainable acquisition model is actually gaining traction. Investors who left are coming back. You were right, Evelyn. All of it. You were right, and I wanted you to know. Something loosened in Evelyn's chest. Validation she hadn't known she needed. That's incredible. I'm really happy for you, for the company. Do you ever regret it? Walking away? Evelyn looked around her small kitchen, at Chloe's drawings on the refrigerator, at Liam's work jacket hung by the door, at the life she'd built from the ruins of her old one. No, she said honestly, not even a little bit. I don't know how you did it, how you just left everything behind. I didn't leave everything behind. I left behind the things that were killing me. There's a difference. Elena nodded slowly. I've been working 80-hour weeks, missing my kids' school events. My husband barely recognizes me anymore. And I keep thinking, is this what it takes to be successful? That depends on how you define success. How do you define it now? Evelyn thought about it. About the metrics that used to matter. Stock prices, quarterly earnings, magazine covers. About the metrics that mattered now. Chloe's laughter, family's help through the foundation, the way Liam looked at her across the dinner table. Success is going to bed satisfied with how I spent my day, she said. It's being part of something bigger than myself. It's loving people and being loved back. It's work that matters and a life that feels real. That sounds nice. It is. It's also hard sometimes. And messy. And nothing like what I thought I wanted, but it's mine. They talked for another hour. About the company, about life, about the impossible balance of ambition and humanity. When Elena left, she hugged Evelyn. Thank you for being honest, for showing me there's another way. Just remember, there's no right way. Only your way. Figure out what you actually want, not what you think you're supposed to want. Then build that. After Elena drove away, Evelyn stood in the driveway feeling oddly emotional. That had been her life once. The suits and the stress and the relentless drive for more. She'd been good at it, great at it even. But this was better. That evening, the three of them walked to the park with Biscuit. Chloe ran ahead with the dog, her laughter carrying back on the spring breeze. Liam held Evelyn's hand, their fingers intertwined comfortably. Elena came by today, Evelyn said. Yeah? How'd that go? Good. Strange. She wanted to tell me the company's thriving. And how'd that make you feel? Proud, relieved, and absolutely certain I made the right choice leaving. They walked in silence for a moment. Chloe called for them to watch Biscuit do a trick that looked suspiciously like the dog just jumping randomly. We're very impressed, Evelyn called back. I love this life, she said to Liam. I love this messy, chaotic, beautiful life we built. Yeah, I spent 30 years chasing a version of success that had nothing to do with actual happiness. And I was good at it. I achieved everything I set out to achieve, but I was miserable. And now? Now I'm happy, really, truly happy, for the first time in my life. Liam stopped walking, turned to face her. You know what I think? What? I think your car breaking down was the best thing that ever happened to both of us. Evelyn laughed. A $13,000 transmission repair changed our lives. Worth every penny. That's what I told you earlier. Great minds think alike. That's why we're married. Chloe ran back to them, Biscuit panting happily at her heels. Can we get ice cream on the way home? It's almost dinner time, Liam said. Please? I'll eat all my vegetables at dinner. Double vegetables. Triple vegetables. Evelyn and Liam looked at each other. This happened frequently now, these small negotiations, this shared parenting. Fine, Evelyn said. But you're holding to that triple vegetables promise. Yes! Chloe pumped her fist in the air. They walked to the ice cream shop, a local place that made everything from scratch. Chloe got chocolate with rainbow sprinkles. Liam got vanilla. Evelyn got salted caramel and let Chloe steal bites. They sat on a bench outside the shop, watching the town move around them. People Evelyn knew now. The librarian, the woman who ran the hardware store, Chloe's soccer coach, her community. This was what mattered. Not boardrooms or profit margins or magazine covers. This, family, community, love, real things, true things. Things that couldn't be bought or leveraged or traded. Things that lasted. 5 years after Evelyn's car broke down on that country road, she stood in front of an audience of 300 single parents at the Foundation's annual conference. She'd been asked to give the keynote speech. She looked out at the crowd. Parents who were struggling, parents who were surviving, parents who were doing the impossible work of raising children alone while the world told them they weren't enough. I'm not here to tell you that everything happens for a reason, Evelyn began, because that's bullshit. Bad things happen randomly, cars break down, people die, marriages fall apart. Life doesn't care about your plans. She paused, letting the honesty settle. But I'm here to tell you that who you are in the midst of difficulty matters. That choosing to keep going, to keep trying, to keep loving your kids even when you're exhausted and broke and terrified, that's heroism. Real heroism. Not the movie kind, the everyday kind that doesn't get recognized or celebrated but changes lives anyway. She told them about the foundation, about the resources available, about the community they were building together. I used to think success meant money and power and recognition, she said. I built a billion-dollar company trying to prove I was enough. And I was miserable because I was chasing the wrong thing. Success isn't what you achieve. It's who you become in the process of living your life. It's the love you give, the people you help, the moments that take your breath away, not because they're perfect, but because they're real. After the speech, parents approached her, thanking her, sharing their stories, asking for advice. Evelyn listened to each one, remembering what it felt like to be lost, to feel like she'd failed, to wonder if happiness was even possible. It was. She was living proof. That night, she came home to find Liam teaching Chloe how to change a tire in the driveway. Their daughter, now 13 and full of teenage attitude, was arguing that nobody needed to know this anymore because of roadside assistance apps. And when you're somewhere without cell service, Liam countered, then I'll use my brain to figure it out. You're using your brain right now by learning this skill. This is child labor. This is basic life knowledge. Evelyn watched them bicker affectionately, love swelling in her chest. This was her family. This was her life. How was the conference? Liam asked when he noticed her. Good. Hard. Important. That's your sweet spot. Apparently. Chloe looked up from the tire. Did you tell them about how Dad's garage saved your life? I told them my car broke down and led me to everything I actually needed. That's romantic, in a weird, car-related way. Everything about your mom and me is weird, Liam said. But it works. That night, after Chloe was asleep and the dishes were done and the dog was walked, Evelyn and Liam sat on the back porch. Their ritual. Their quiet moment at the end of each day. You ever think about what would have happened if your car hadn't broken down? Liam asked. Sometimes. I probably would have gone to that blind date. Probably would have married someone appropriate. Probably would have been quietly miserable for the rest of my life. Sounds terrible. It would have been. But I also wouldn't have known what I was missing. You can't mourn a life you never imagined. But you imagined this one? No. This one surprised me. This one broke through all my carefully constructed plans and showed me what actually matters. Liam took her hand. I'm glad your car broke down. Me too. Best $13,000 I ever spent. They sat there in comfortable silence. Above them, stars scattered across the darkness. The same stars that had watched her drive down a country road 5 years ago, frustrated and alone. The same stars that had been there when a mechanic offered help to a stranded stranger. The same stars that would be there tomorrow, and the day after, and every day of this messy, beautiful life she'd chosen. Evelyn thought about the woman she'd been, driven, successful, empty. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the car breaking down, the garage, the little girl who'd asked if she was a princess, the man who'd seen past her success to the person struggling underneath. She thought about the company she'd built and walked away from, about the foundation that mattered more than profit margins ever could, about Chloe calling her mom, about vows spoken in a backyard, about choosing love over fear again and again and again. Sometimes life breaks down at exactly the right moment. Not because there's some cosmic plan or divine intervention, just because randomness and choice and human connection collide in ways that change everything. 5 years ago, Evelyn had been on her way to perfection, to another appropriate date with another appropriate man leading to another appropriate life that would have looked right from the outside while feeling wrong from within. Instead, her car had died on a forgotten road, and a mechanic with rough hands and honest eyes had offered her a tow, not just for her car, for her entire life. She thought she was building towards something her whole career. Turned out she'd been building away from the thing she actually needed. Sometimes you have to lose your way to find your way. Sometimes the road you think you're on is the wrong one entirely. Sometimes breaking down is the only way to break free. Evelyn squeezed Liam's hand. He squeezed back. Tomorrow she'd wake up early to work on grant applications. She'd help Chloe with homework and argue about screen time. She'd have dinner with her family around a table that was too small but felt just right. She'd live a life that looked nothing like success was supposed to look. And she'd be happy. Not perfect, not polished, not the kind of happy that makes it onto magazine covers. The real kind. The hard-earned kind. The kind that comes from choosing what matters over what impresses. The kind that lasts. Somewhere out there, a woman's car was probably breaking down. Maybe she was on her way to something that looked right but felt wrong. Maybe she was lost and didn't know it yet. Maybe she needed her life to fall apart so she could rebuild it into something true. Evelyn hoped that woman found her garage, found her Liam, found her way home. Because the wrong road, it turns out, sometimes leads to exactly the right place. You just have to be brave enough to follow it.